Avengers. We think we know them all, but do we really? Initially in the comics, Marvel's Avengers weren't quite as popular as they've become today. You know the mainstays, but who else has earned an Avengers membership card? On to someone you may have not been expecting, since we rarely talk about them on the channel, to be honest. It's Nightmask. Nightmask is another hero who hails from Jonathan Hickman's time on the Avengers series. He was created by Jonathan Hickman and Jerome Opeña. Nightmask was an artificially created perfect human. I wish I was that. He was made by ex Nihilo, whose goal was to reshape Earth. It was learned that his name initially was Blackveil, though he'd go on to take up the human name of Adam Blackveil, and the superhero name of Nightmask. As Nightmask, Adam joined Sunspot's team of multiversal Avengers, who were of course attempting to figure out what was causing the universes to collide in what we now know as incursions, which were also the beginning of basically the end of the multiverse. Next up, I've talked about Ex Nihilo before on the channel, but someone who doesn't often get as much love, or also I guess rather doesn't get enough love, because I feel like Ex Nihilo doesn't either, gets less love, let's just say, is Abyss. Which hero do you think doesn't get talked about enough? For me, Eye-Boy is another one of those, but a much less obscure hero that honestly deserves more love and respect is of course Storm. Let me know if you're a Storm fan in the comments as well. Back to the point at hand, Ex Nihilo and Abyss were like a package deal really. They worked together to bring a garden to the surface of Mars, but got into a conflict with the Avengers when they attempted to change the Earth with their powers. Yeah, the Avengers weren't here for that. They were creations of the Builders. The Builders were attacking the universe, which put them at odds, of course, with the Avengers. But eventually, when Ex Nihilo and Abyss realized the universe couldn't be repaired, they actually turned on the Builders and joined forces with the Avengers. However, Abyss's time working with the Avengers was not as long, as she chose to sacrifice herself in the fight against the Beyonders, who they learned were actually behind the incursions, where universes were, as I said before, colliding with one another. Continuing on, this is a hero who was gone for some time in the comics, but has made a fairly recent return within the last few years after being dead for a little while. Let's see if you can guess who I'm about to say. Agent Venom, as he was known at the time, was a member of the Secret Avengers, which, if you'll remember, was a pretty cool team run by Captain America himself. So although it isn't the core main Avengers team, it definitely had connections and was closely tied to the original team, hence why I'm gonna include it here on our list. Agent Venom, for those who might be unfamiliar, is actually the person who tormented Spider-Man's Peter Parker when he was younger before becoming his friend. That's right, that's Flash Thompson there. Flash currently in the comics is known as Agent Anti-Venom. For a good amount of time, as I said, he was actually dead, having given his life in the fight against Red Goblin, a version of Carnage who at the time was actually bonded with Norman Osborn. And if you think that sounds terrifying, yeah, it was terrifying. Next up, this one surprised even me, honestly. I never knew about this, but apparently Firestar used to be a member of the Avengers. What? She gained her membership after her time on the Hellions, Emma Frost's Hellions to be clear. After she left that team due to her learning the truth about how Emma Frost was manipulating her, she ended up on the New Warriors. She became a core member of that team and would go on to become engaged to fellow New Warriors member Justice. Rage, another New Warriors teammate, brought both Justice and Firestar to the Avengers, and after helping the team and training under Hawkeye, they were all basically given full membership status. Next up is a mutant I feel like many people forget about, but definitely not a mutant you should sleep on. Manifold is a mutant that not everyone knows, but honestly, you should know him because he's pretty cool. He is Eden Fessy, a unique mutant with the power to communicate with the universe, getting it to agree to basically bend and fold to his will so that he can travel across the universe easily if he so chooses. He seems like an extremely powerful teleporter as a result, but his powers are actually to communicate with the universe instead. Manifold ended up being recruited into the Avengers team following the events of Avengers vs. X-Men. He was part of a team that was sent to Mars to actually rescue the original Avengers. Continuing on with our spacey vibes here, we have a hero who is also based in the realm of the cosmic, though not the realm of mutants. Charlie 27 is actually better known for his affiliation with the Guardians of the Galaxy team, the original one, who actually hailed from the 31st century, in case you didn't know. He initially joined up with Yondu, Vance Astro, and Martin X as one of the original members of that team. His powers are that he is super strong, as he was genetically engineered to live on the planet of Jupiter, which makes him super strong because it got a lot of gravity, way more gravity than we have on Earth, and he was therefore built to withstand its insane gravitational forces, which means he has far more muscle mass than most other humanoids, making him both stronger and also denser. Not only that, but he's also a military man and therefore is very good at fighting, tactics, and military strategy, as well as a pilot. Charlie 27 ended up teaming up with the Avengers in their fight against Korvac, and it was during this time that he became an honorary member of the team. He attended one of their membership meetings, but ultimately decided to part ways with Earth's mightiest hero team. He was like, nah, more of a Guardians guy. Peace. Moving on to an epic powerhouse of an individual, who, despite their power, isn't as often featured in the comics, to be honest. Hyperion is a hero who originally hails from another world, the Earth 13034. There, he was an alien Eternal who was left abandoned on Earth when he was just a baby. When his Earth was destroyed, he came over to Earth 616, becoming a hero in the main continuity. He would end up joining up with the premier superhero team on Earth, the Avengers, and actually give his life in their fight against the Beyonders. However, that wouldn't be the end of his story, as following the destruction and reconstruction of the multiverse during and after the events of Secret Wars, Marcus Milton's Hyperion would return to existence. However, this time around, he wouldn't join the Avengers and instead would become the leader of the Squadron Supreme. If you know about the Squadron Supreme, then you know how that goes. And now for something completely different, but even more obscure, honestly. Demolition Man is an interesting hero whose origin is closely tied to Ben Grimm's The Thing, but also who started as a close ally of Captain America as well, despite him getting his powers from a criminal. That criminal was Power Broker. Initially, Dennis Dunphy just wanted to be a football player, basically. He tried out for various teams but never made the cut, so when the Power Broker offered him powers, he jumped at the opportunity to become strong enough to actually play professional American football. Of course, the American dream. However, he became so powerful that while good enough, he was now considered to actually be too good and too powerful to play with, other regular base level human football players. Fortunately, the Power Broker instead offered him a place in the Unlimited Class Wrestling Federation, where basically superpowered individuals were free to wrestle against one another, so you don't have to worry about being too strong, which was exactly what Dennis did. It was there that he'd meet The Thing and Sharon Ventura's Miss Marvel and befriend them. He would break the Power Broker's control over him, and later, through his ties to Power Broker Inc., would actually meet with and become an ally of Captain America, even joining up for a time with the Avengers through that relationship. Next up is Gilgamesh. As in Gilgamesh? Gilgamesh? The hero from that really old poem, The Epic of Gilgamesh, that I read in my classic literature class back in high school, from the weird animated movie they made based on that poem that I went to see on a field trip with my class. Oh wait, no, that was Beowulf. Regardless, both heroes, Beowulf and Gilgamesh, are ancient, and their major claim to fame was actually built into history through stories and epics that were passed down through generations. Seriously, look them both up. They both have really cool epic poems, and you can read about them. Gilgamesh as a hero was so popular that he even made his way actually into Marvel Comics. I know. Poor Beowulf though, I don't think he's in Marvel Comics. Although he should be. Someone write him in if he's not already in there. However, unlike Hercules, he is not as tied to his historical or supernatural origin of old, but instead was incorporated into the modern mythos of the Eternals. Although, that being said, Gilgamesh does hang out with Hercules and other heroes, and is kind of tied to the mythos, but he's an Eternal, and that is not in the epic poem, let me tell you. They did not mention the Eternals in there. The Eternals are a group of ancient beings that were created by the Celestials, who visited Earth and basically did experiments on humans like billions of years ago. They were destined to do battle against the first race the Celestials created on Earth, the Deviants, often known as being the more evil race of those two, though really in the end we learn it's a little bit more complicated than good or bad races. Gilgamesh was known as the Forgotten One when he first teamed up with the Avengers. They offered him a place on their team after he helped them to fight a demon invasion in New York City. Probably just another Tuesday for the Avengers. And it was Mr. Fantastic who actually suggested that he take up the name of Gilgamesh, with neither Gilgamesh or Reed knowing at the time that this was a name the hero had actually used back during 3000 BC, as he actually was kind of the Gilgamesh of historical legend, but he was also really an Eternal. And finally, Captain Britain. But not the Captain Britain that you think. This version of Captain Britain is not Brian Braddock, it's not even Betsy Braddock, but it's actually Kelsey Lee. Yeah, I'll bet many of you out there haven't heard of Kelsey. She only appeared in a select number of issues. She was the Captain Britain that was selected after Brian Braddock's Captain Britain became the ruler of Otherworld, because of her bravery where she put herself as a civilian in danger just to help the Avengers in a fight against the Wrecking Crew and seemingly died. She was chosen to become the new Captain Britain. When offered the choice of the Sword of Might or the Amulet of Right, she chose the sword, making her a much more aggressive and brutal version of the hero. She ended up joining up with the Avengers after she returned to life and aided them in their fight. However, after the events of Avengers Disassembled, being knocked out of that fight early on by a rampaging She-Hulk, she ended up actually leaving the team, hence why a lot of people don't know about her. That's about it. Until next time, you stay nerdy, YouTube.